Boris Johnson's motorcade swept out of the university campus barely an hour ago, where he held the last cabinet meeting before Brexit. He was telling senior ministers that he hoped that 11 o'clock tonight, the moment of Brexit, would heal the divisions of the last 3.5 years. Cabinet discussed a Canadian-style free trade agreement with the EU. That's a pretty limited agreement. And he also said that he hoped that there would be further trade agreements with other countries outside of the EU, covering 80% of the world within 3 years. Now, with that, Boris Johnson jetted off back to London, where in Downing Street he's going to have a party. English wine, English food and a light show to celebrate the moment of Brexit, leaving behind a pre-recorded message done yesterday for the nation to enjoy at 10 o'clock on his Facebook page. Brexit Boris Johnson style does mean more checks at borders and more delay. Now, the public have been pretty clear that they're willing to endure some pain from Brexit in order to get this done. That's what they're saying at the moment. We will see in the coming months whether they really meant what they said at the time.
Still many questions remain about what the future holds for the UK after its exit from the EU. Reporter Phil Black looks at the challenges Britain faces.
Brexit is happening, so the British people can move on and we can all stop talking about it, right? Not even close. Because even once British clocks strike Friday's Brexit hour, Boris Johnson's punchy election-winning pledge
we're going to get Brexit done
will only be partly fulfilled. And after more than 3 years of Brexit-inspired angst, bitterness and paralysis, January 31 marks the end of what many consider the easy part. Now there's a new deadline and a whole new mountain of uncertainty. The end of 2020 marks the close of what's known as the transition period. Until then, the UK is out of the EU, but still following its rules. It's an 11-month window for both sides to thrash out a new functioning relationship, especially on the hugely important issue of trade.
Most trade agreements take between 3 and 5 years to negotiate. Moving to 11 months is a very condensed schedule. Most trade experts don't believe that it will be possible.
And yet Boris Johnson has already vowed he won't extend that window. So the cliff edge is back. It's once again possible Britain could topple out of the EU without a trade deal in place, without easy access to its most important market, causing enormous economic harm. But don't worry, won't happen, says the Prime Minister.
Will Brexit help farmers in lots of ways?
His cheery optimism extends to the quality of the new free trade agreement he wants to negotiate with the EU.
I think that it's massively in our interests, in the interests of both sides of the channel, to have a wonderful zero tariff, zero quota, all singing, all dancing FTA. And I'm absolutely confident that we can do that.
But scratch the surface of Johnson's hopeful assessment and you see a big, ominous contradiction. He says he wants a close trading relationship, but he doesn't want to closely follow EU regulations. That's not possible, says Brussels.
The precondition is that European and British businesses continue to compete on a level playing field. We will certainly not expose our companies to unfair competition.